everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Lauren. I run a group called Sew Whatever on Facebook, and I go live quite often to show you guys how to make stuff. This is my cat Benjamin. He usually hangs out and interrupts videos and plays with random scraps of things. Anyway, so in this video I am going to show you guys how I made this diamond clutch wallet. This is a huge wallet, and it's kind of amazing. So just to show you guys, when you open it up, you'll see that there are 6 card slots here, as well as 1 slip pocket, another slip pocket here, and then 7 more card slots here. Like, awesome, right? And then you can go ahead and close that so nothing falls out. And then on the other side, you have a really handy dandy phone pocket. I mean, you could put something else besides a phone here too, but it's pretty cool. And then a zipper on the top. Blowing my mind right now. So I decided to make a few little bitty changes. I decided to use leather for my flaps, just because I wanted to class it up a little bit and make it match the Bonnie bucket bag that I made the other day. The video is in my channel, and if you aren't subscribed to my channel, why not? What are you waiting for? Just go do it, or I'll stick my cat on you. Anyway, so one thing I decided to do was to top stitch this piece here. I felt like it gave it a little bit more of a finishing touch, but if you have a weaker machine, I would not recommend doing it. It's a lot of layers. I used a handbag zipper up here so that I could use that zipper pull to add a wristlet strap, because why not? Yeah, so we'll get started in just a second. But we're gonna wait for you to hit subscribe. Did you do it yet? All right, guys, so let's get started on the diamond clutch wallet. So we wanna make sure we have all of our supplies ready to go. This pattern calls for 2 thin 18mm magnets, which is awesome. Because, oh, it says 14mm? My bad. I have 18. We're gonna make it work. Not worry about it. So, got those ready to go. And that's pretty much the bulk of what this pattern calls for as far as hardware, which is really nice. So it's great for beginners who are confident. We need to remember that there is a 1/4 inch seam allowance unless otherwise specified. So this is different than most handbag patterns that I've made. So we'll just keep that in mind. This pattern is really awesome. It has a total of, I believe, 13 card slots, which is pretty awesome if I do say so. So let me go ahead and talk about the card slots really quick. While I was cutting and interfacing this, I got a little bit confused and I had to phone a friend, but we figured it out. So when you're preparing your card slots, make sure you measure starting from the bottom. So then you'll make the measurements as stated, and then there's a piece at the top. So this right here is actually the bottom, but it becomes the top. No, I guess it is still the bottom. But anyway, so you'll have your first measurement here, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold it wrong side down, and then fold up again, fold down, up, down, accordion style, and then you'll have one big fold that goes across the entire length of those card slots. So you'll see there we've got 1, 2, 3 card slots we've created. So if that one confused you a little bit, I hope this video will make you go, oh, I get it now. And then for the other card slots, It's very similar. Again, you're gonna start with the 2.75, except now it is the top. So it's the 2.75 and then the other measurements noted, and you're gonna fold right sides together, wrong sides, so just play with it for a minute. I definitely messed it up the first time. But if you follow my NCW card slot trick, as far as using a ruler and a ballpoint pen and 809, you should have no problem getting nice card slots. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this pattern. I'm super excited to make it. This is my very first time making it, so it's gonna be a little slow. I've got the pattern right here on my iPad, and we're just gonna work through it together. So the very first thing we wanna do is top stitch our card slots. So I'm gonna fold this part open because technically that's not a card slot. So we're just gonna top stitch along these two. I may have run out of bobbin thread, but that's okay because I have more bobbins made. It's always a good idea when you're starting a project to have several bobbins of the thread color you need on deck, ready to go. I interfaced my card slots with 809. I don't believe a specific interfacing was mentioned at the beginning, but that's definitely what I would recommend. Okay, so we do stitch along the top as well. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. So 4 total top stitchings, and then you're gonna open up the back like that, and then if you've marked it out, it should be about 4.25 is the center, and you're gonna start at that card slot, not at the very top. So just gonna start my stitch line, back stitch, back stitch, back stitch, back stitch, back stitch, back stitch. I'm always a little excessive when I backstitch because people go in and out of those card slots, so I want to make sure that they're extra sturdy. Okay, so then what you're gonna do is you're gonna bring the back side of this, well, I should probably cut it actually. Sorry, this is the first time I'm making this pattern, so it won't be as easy to follow as some of my other videos that I am prolific in sewing. So we're gonna cut that off and make it nice and even. And then you're gonna fold the back side of those card slots to the bottom of the other side. So hopefully that makes sense. We're just gonna line those up and then use our 1/4 inch seam allowance along that line. Then what you do is you flip it right side out. That makes sense. It says you can use tape to keep everything in place. I totally didn't do that. I get why. That's okay, we can straighten it back out, and then I'm gonna press it with my iron. And then you're going to base stitch along the sides. So there is the first set of card slots done. It's really exciting. And now we are going to move on to the side card slots. So you should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 card slots for the side. Again, I've used 809 or craft fuse, not woven fuse, just because I think this is easy to fold, it's nice and crisp, all that good stuff. So what we're gonna do is we're going to fold this single piece back like this, and we're gonna just continue that process of top stitching all of these card slots. If you're making multiple of these wallets at once, you could totally make this one large piece and top stitch along all of them at once, if that makes sense, and then cut it down to the size you need, which is something that I would definitely consider if I decide my customers want more of these. I guess I don't need to be trimming my threads every single time either. I'll try that. I don't like that. Make sure everything's out of the way. There we go. And then we'll resituate this all together. Okay. So then we are going to baste along each side. So I like to go in the direction of the card slots. You don't really want to go against it because then the foot of your machine will kind of start to mess everything up. And you'll be like, why did you do that, machine? Make sure everything's nice and straight as it can be. And then my piece is a little longer than it should be, so we're going to trim it to make sure it's the same size that the pattern calls for. Boom, nailed it. Okay. With the pleated card slots right side up and the slots to the right. Layer side strip, right side down, matching the long edge of the strip the left edge of the card slots. Sew together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so attaching that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm gonna trim my excess threads, and then we're gonna open it up towards the side away from the card slots and press well. And it looks like she's just sewing through the card slots, so you don't want to fold those over. You're just gonna sew through the card slots and that side seam. Make sure you've got a nice top stitch length. You want to try and stay consistent. So we're going to place the card slots right side up with the pleats on the right. We're going to grab our card slot backing. And I always like to label my pieces on the back just really gently. right sides together. It looks like it's okay if these pieces are different sizes. It'll all even out in the end. Which is pretty cool. Okay, so a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay. And then we're gonna fold the card slots, it's the wrong side, and match the long raw edge of the lining with the long raw edge of the side strip. So we wanna pull this back until they line up. So you can see this is the piece we just attached, and then this is my side panel. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch along here as well as along here. So down, up one side, down the other. And you want to make sure you're sewing through the card slots on that side panel. So we're stitching it down along there. If you wanted to, you could probably add another row of stitching here. I really love how the interfacing kind of sandwiches together in that seam and makes it feel nice and like luxuriously stiff, as awkward as that sounds. Okay. So now we are going to be assembling the lining, body lining. So here is my, boom, body lining. Put the body lining right side up, align the side card slot piece previously prepared right side up onto the body lining. Got it. Facing the left. Gonna clip that in place. Already this is coming together a lot faster than I anticipated. I've been staring at this wallet for like this whole month. Like, I need to make that. I really should make that. Okay, so we're gonna line this up 1 inch, matching the bottom side, baste the 2 layers together by stitching around the 2 edges with seam allowance from the top of the body. So 1 inch, your card slot should be facing up. And I have this really handy dandy 1 inch ruler. I'm just gonna kind of line it up against there. It looks nice. Clip it in place. Make sure that doesn't go anywhere. So here's what it looks like so far. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew across the top, and we're gonna sew across the bottom, and then we're gonna sew along the bottom of the card slots. Run out of bobbin thread. That's okay. That was a very good place to have that happen. So, like I said, I'm going to sew across the very top. And then we're going to sew across, the bottom. then we are going to sew across the bottom of our card slots. Okay, so there's what we're looking at. Card slot should be facing out. So you should have a nice long slip pocket, card slots, another slip pocket here. Slip pocket here too, but not on purpose. Ha ha ha. And then all your card slots right there. So now we are ready to get our flap tab closures together. I am doing mine just a little bit differently than the pattern suggests because I wanted to use leather. So what I've done is I've cut 2 pieces of leather for each tab. I've applied Decaville Light and marked where I want my snap tab. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Looks like I'm going to be installing the male parts to the snaps. I'm going to grab a marking pencil. And 2 washers. Push that through. Since this is my first time making this wallet, it's hard for me to give fun little tips and tricks as I'm making it, so I do apologize for that. We're kind of learning as we're going, and then as we're going, and that's fun too. Okay. Then I'm gonna line this up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch around the outside at a little over 1/4 of an inch, so maybe about 3/8 of an inch. And then I'm gonna trim my excess. So I'm gonna have a raw edge, but it's gonna ensure that the flap isn't too thick. And with the leather, it's not going to start fraying or anything, so it's okay to have that raw edge. If you want to, you can use edge coat along the outside pieces to finish them off. So there are the male tabs added. And like I said, with these tabs, you're gonna put right sides together, and we're just gonna sew around the outside edge at a little over 1/4 of an inch. You wanna go nice and slow, make sure you pivot. And then I am gonna sew across the bottom just because. Keep that all together. And then I'll just go ahead and repeat these steps on the other flap. If you can, try and take some really sharp scissors, and we're just gonna cut around the outside edges pretty close to our stitch line. The pattern does have alternate flaps that you can use, which I think is a really fun addition. So there is the outside of our flap, and there is the inside. So you can see those edges are nice and crisp. And if you wanted to use edge coat around your outside edge, it's really easy to just run it across. You can also burnish the edges a little bit with a lighter, but it's not quite the same. So I'll set that aside and finish cutting out this one. Is the snap tab. I really like how these are like really fun and geometric, and they kind of coordinate, so that's why I chose to do those snaps. All right, so the next part we're going to do is the adding the snap tab. So we're going to grab our lining again with the central card slot to the right. This is the central card slot. So what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna fold this in half, just make a little center mark, just so I know for sure. Layer tab closure with the snap, face down, centered, and base stitch at 1/8 of an inch to keep it in place. I'm gonna fold this in half to find the center as well, and lay that in place. Make sure your snap is facing down. Okay, basted. Okay, so now we're going to work on the slip pocket. So for the slip pocket, I decided to use Decaville on my outside fabric, and then I'm using waterproof canvas to line it. This is matching a bag I made in a previous video. And instead of cutting out 2 of the same pieces, I thought I have to cut it down anyway. I may as well leave room for error and just cut one larger piece and lay it over top. This was just kind of a scrap I had laying around. So place those on top, right sides together, aligning all of the edges, and clip. Sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance along the whole of the top edge of the pocket. Be sure to pivot at the corners, and then trim your seam allowance down. Okay, we got this. So 1/4 inch, make sure to pivot. I'm going to switch to a smaller stitch length just so I can be super careful on those corners. If you want to make sure it's completely perfect, go ahead and like trace out your seam allowance. It's also given on the pattern, so it's super helpful. If you wanted to, you could cut out 2 of the pattern and then cut 1 on the seam allowance lines and like trace it out. And then you're gonna leave the sides unsewn. So cut this down now. Just sew as close as possible. Okay, turn it right side out and press. Mark the location of the female snap on the exterior fabric. It should be centered. Now separate the piece as shown. Okay, I don't see why that couldn't have been done prior to, but whatever. Okay, so now we're gonna grab one of the female magnetic snap pieces. And if you have the thin snaps, you'll see they're nice and thin, obviously, as the name suggests. So now we're going to turn it right side out and press. I'm gonna go ahead and press from the lining side just so I don't harm my exterior fabric like at all. Because you never know. It's gonna be a little complicated since it is such a unique shape, but just kind of roll the seam through your fingers and you'll slowly get there. Press really carefully into those corners and you should be good. Okay, so now we're going to lay your front body piece right side up at the slip pocket. Okay, top stitch around the top edge and then base stitch along the other edges. Again, we're just gonna go really slowly and turn at those corners. And I'm having a little trouble at this corner here, so you just want to make sure you're pushing all of your fabric out of the way, just kind of the way it wants to lay, not a big deal. And then sew around the other corners, the other sides as well, so nothing shifts. So pretty. I can't wait. Okay, so now we are going to take the prepared flat piece . Okay, I see. I think, yes. So I have actually kind of marked out where I want my snap to go, so you want to add this piece on the opposite side of that. And you can kind of play around with which side you want to be where. That one seems too much of a repeat, so I'm gonna lay it this way. And I'm just gonna baste around the outside edge to attach it, I think. Is that right? Okay. Get your back body piece, match the raw bottom edges and 2 side seams. Oh, okay, so it doesn't look like we're basting that into place. I'll just add some more clips, no biggie. And then I'm going to lay this piece. Okay, so with your snap here. No, that doesn't make sense. Zipper. I guess I'll place the snap later. I'll just move ahead. We'll see what's going on here. When do we add that last snap? Okay, so I want my snap here. Okay. So have your snap piece facing towards the top, if you've previously decided where you want that to go, I should say. So we're gonna lay these right sides together, line them up nicely. Hello, how do you do? How do you do? Phew. Okay, so 1/4 inch seam allowance. Woohoo! Oh, it's so pretty, I can't wait. And we're going to press that seam open, take the prepared flap piece and the body piece, find the center of the body in the side with the slip pocket assembled, and mark. Place the flap on top of the body with snap down, centered on the mark. Okay, so basically we're gonna take our leather top piece here. Oh yeah. So in my head, you don't want them to snap actually. That makes sense because you have to add something to it. So I'm gonna mark my center, mark my center. Oh, I already found that center. And then we're just gonna lay those centers on top of each other. Center, center. Because if you close your snap tab, you're not gonna have room to put anything inside. So right now they're about 1 centimeter off, and then once you get something added, you can see it's like that. So base that in place. Unsnap that for now. I don't know why I want to just stitch that pocket in place. I know it's not necessary, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And then as I'm basting that in place, I'm running my hand along that side seam and pressing it open and sewing through that as well. Like, what could it hurt? Nada, nothing, zilch. Cool. Trim all my extra threads. Hey Ben, hi. You gonna come hang out? Come here. There we go. Lay down. Okay. So I kind of have all of my pattern pieces hanging out over here just so I can keep track of what I've used and what I haven't used. So that's nice. Oh, and threw it on the floor. What's new? Guys, we are like almost done. I had some snap tabs. I'm not sure where they've run off to now. Maybe they're clipped in here. Ben, what did you do with my snap? There they are. Got it. They're not snap tabs. I'm sorry. They're zipper tabs. Okay, so it looks like we can set this aside for now. So I'm going to just throw it over with my lining and get really excited that I'm going to be putting them together soon. Grabbing my zipper. I believe that it uses a 7-inch zipper, and I've decided to go ahead and use a handbag zipper because then I can also use the zipper pull to add a wristlet strap to if I needed it. So what we're gonna do, take your zipper tab pieces to the ironing board and press a 1/4 inch seam allowance on 2 opposite sides. Okay, we're just gonna fold it in half and then fold them in again. Sit down. Go sit down. Go on. So take your zipper and pull the closed end to the middle of the zipper tab so you don't see the end of the zipper. Okay. Okay. So, I am going to cut the end of my zipper like so, and then I'm just gonna lay that inside the zipper tab to kind of make a sandwich, and sew over top. So if you're confused about what I've done with the zipper tab, we folded the ends inside to the middle, so into the center, and then you fold it in half again to hide all the raw edges, and you only have them on the outside edge. These are 1.5 inch squares, so there is no wrong way to do that, so you don't have to worry. And then there's a little guide for your zipper on this pattern piece, which is really handy. And you'll just want to cut your zipper down to that size. So if you're using a zipper that's longer, no worries, you've got this pattern piece, this handy dandy pattern piece. And then we're just gonna, again, open this up halfway, lay your zipper down, and then lay it back on top. If you want to use a little bit of fabric glue or anything like that, feel free. It couldn't hurt. You never know when it's going to start fraying or anything like that. Watch out for your zipper stop. And your zipper is ready to go. There's what that looks like with your zipper ends attached. And body front piece A, it lines up just like that. So now we can move on to the next step, which is sewing the zipper. So we're gonna grab our body piece again. We're gonna lay our zipper face down. The zipper pull should be off to the left. So we're gonna zip it back up and we're going to lay it face down, centered over that. And I'm gonna clip. And then you're gonna grab the coin pocket lining. I've decided to use a waterproof canvas for this part. You know, it can't hurt. I did not interface the waterproof canvas because it is already pretty thick. And again, I'm using leather, which again, that's gonna add some thickness. So we're gonna stitch along the top with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You may have to stop to move the zipper pull out of the way. It does mention if you're using a wider zipper tape actually to move it in a little bit. So I want it to be hanging off the side just slightly, because a handbag zipper or number 5 zipper tape is much wider than a number 3. So just keep that in mind. There we go, that's better. So we have the zipper tape hanging off the edge a little bit. We're just gonna watch out for the zipper pull and sew all the way across. And now we are going to flip that piece. And it looks like we're going to sew through the flap as well. So you're gonna lay this down. I'm just gonna quickly iron it from the wrong side. You wanna make sure you all of your zipper tape in that seam, so it's pressed open. This is what your lining looks like, and this is what the exterior looks like. The zipper tape is nice and fully caught, and we're just gonna sew all the way across this seam. I'm actually going to avoid sewing through the actual seam allowance. I'm gonna start at the zipper tape. This just helps me keep it less bulky. I'm sewing through the flap and then right next to the zipper tape, or that zipper tab. So I started at the zipper tab and I ended at the zipper tab. We'll see if this helps. Goodness gracious me, oh my, this is looking so cute. Okay, so stitch across the top, then you may have to stop to move. Prepare the next step, pull the flap down and insert into the snap. So now we can snap it shut, yay! Oh, it's so stinking cute. Look at that. Oh, I love it. I'm so excited. All right, next we will attach the other side of the zipper. Take your previously prepared body lining piece with card slots and tab closure. Okay, so it looks like the tab closures go to towards the top together. Yep, okay. I love the pictures that are included. They're really easy to understand. So I'm actually, to make my life a little easier, I'm going to baste this in place with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. This is a lot to sew through. It's a lot of bulk, and I have a feeling things are gonna get shifted. And mine, again, is only bulky because I decided to be an overachiever and use leather as well. So, yeah, that's correct. So the lining of your wallet and the exterior of your wallet should be facing toward each other, right sides together. So now I'm going to grab the coin slot, or the, coin pocket lining, and lay that right sides together. So we've got the right sides together for the coin slot and the right sides together for the exterior and interior of the wallet. And we're gonna bump up our seam allowance to come in towards that basting stitch. So instead of 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, we're using 1/4 of an inch. Perfect. So here is my basting stitches, and then right below that, here are my basting stitches. Sorry for my terrible grammar. Open your piece, pull the tab closure up, press and top stitch. Oh, that's cute. I'm just gonna give everything a good tug. I don't want anything to come loose, and it looks like I need to stitch over this flap one more time. Ah, that looks so much better. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna open up. I'm going to press it from the lining side So my lining is wide open. You want to make sure you don't catch the other side of the lining. And we're just gonna press it carefully and make sure your flap is up. You don't want to stitch down through it. You only want to stitch through it in that seam allowance. And then I'm going to start at the zipper tab, back stitch, and go nice and slow through all of that seam allowance. And then I'm going to stop when I get to the zipper tab and back stitch. Awesome. So here's what you're looking at so far. You've got the body of your wallet over here. We've got the lining with all of our card slots attached here. And then here is the outside. And lining. Okay. So now we're going to attach our second female snap, female magnetic snap, as well as a nameplate, because she did say now is the time. So it's going to be 1.5 inches from the top, and I'm just using my pre-made markings from the pattern pieces. Ooh. Yikes. I think I'm gonna use another scrap of interfacing on this. I didn't use a lot of interfacing on the exterior just because I didn't want the wallet to be too unmanageable. But you know, you gotta use enough, especially on those snap tabs. If there's a protective layer on your magnetic snap, go ahead and peel it off now. And then push your snap through. Press it down. Cool. I'm so excited. All right, so our zipper is attached. Everything looks right. We need to add a nameplate, that's right. I'll go ahead and add it a few inches below the snap tab. I need to grab a little more interfacing. So I would definitely recommend using woven fuse and Decaville light for the exterior of the wallet. I'm gonna go ahead and write that down. It does say, yeah, that feels way better. Okay, just go a few inches below my snap center. So that's all the pieces, guys. Now we just get to finish it up. So we're gonna Take extra care to line up the zipper section. You want to fold it right on top of each other. I'm going to grab a bunch of these clips, add a clip, separate the lining, fold the zipper in towards the lining. Okay. Make sure the zipper is completely open to the pocket. Oh, and mine was completely closed. I'm gonna open it about halfway. I'm gonna get it past those snap tabs just because I don't want to risk getting it in my lining. So the coin pocket lining is flat. Pin all the way around the entire rectangle except for the coin pocket opening. Okay, clip there. Okay, so here's what we're looking at. Here's the coin pocket lining. Here's the interior of the bag, and then when you flip it over, you're gonna see your exterior as well as your coin pocket lining. So we're gonna sew the layers together using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then we're gonna trim the seam allowance down to 1/8 of an inch. When you get to the zipper tabs, you should be sewing right along the edge of them, but not catching the tab fabric in the seams. So keep that in mind. Let's do it. I'm gonna use a slightly wider seam allowance in the coin slot, coin pocket area, just because I want that to fit really nicely inside. So again, we're sewing next to the coin slot or the zipper tabs, not through them. You don't want to catch the fabric for them. At the corner. I always like to backstitch at the corner. I know I'm a weirdo like that. Okay. And then again, next to the zipper tab, not through it, and then I'm gonna make my seam allowance just a little bit wider for that zipper pocket. Okay. You want to make sure that you've come in towards the center more. You want to make sure you can see your base stitch inside the seam allowance. If you can see it inside, you're going to be able to see it inside your wallet as well, and you generally don't want that. So let's trim these seam allowances. And essentially you're just going to be like cutting right up next to your base stitching, because your base stitch was 1/8 of an inch. Cut the bottom edge. So here's everything cut. It's looking good. I'm excited. And unzip the zipper all the way. Remove the bulk from the zipper seams. Yep, there's no bulk. Turn your wallet right side out through the opening you left in the coin pocket. Gently adjust the sides and the corners with a tool, like a knitting tool, so that they look nice. Okay. So we're gonna push out the bottom first. Just slowly get everything down. This is a nice big turn hole, so this is really, really cool. You're a turn hole. Ben, you want to see what we're doing? Okay. I feel like unsnapping that is going to help a little. There we go. Woo! So I'm just gonna gently press the corners open using my finger and just kind of massage that seam. Oh wow, so cool. And then press open the zipper tabs. And again, the side seams might be kind of thick. You just want to kind of massage them with your hand. I'm using my lighter just to run along any fray threads that I see. Okay. So then I'm going to use a piece of Decaville. Slip into the body with the fusible sides towards the outer of the wallet. Okay. If there's any trimming. Okay, so the fusible side of Decaville is pretty shiny. You can see here, it's a lot shinier than the other side. So I'm just gonna insert that into the wallet. Corner to corner. Seems like it's a little wide. So I'm just gonna trim it down a little. Actually, I just kind of want to see what it feels like without it. So I'm just gonna stick my lining in just so I can see the shape of the wallet. I'm gonna give it a good press from the lining side. So that's kind of what it looks like. I definitely I'm gonna add this heavy Decaville. I just need to trim down the sides quite a bit. this again. And that gets placed towards the exterior. Ooh, that's a much nicer fit. So I trimmed it down about 1/4 of an inch. And that seemed to help a little bit. But it's still, whoa, like way too tall by about 1/2 an inch. Oh my. Feels like a much better fit now that I've trimmed those seam allowances down. And I can press from the lining side. Please make sure you watch out for any pieces that might melt. I also want to top stitch here because that's going to drive me nuts. So let's go ahead and sew this closed. Okay, so we folded that raw edge in and closed her up. And we're going to stick that back inside the wallet. Push those corners in. Oh, I can use a pair of scissors. Really gently, I'm just gonna poke those corners completely down with these scissors. Okay, gonna zip it up. And then the pattern calls for stitching in the ditch along this seam allowance, which shouldn't affect your sewing pattern at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Back stitched at the beginning and the end. Just gonna trim the excess down and then use my lighter to very carefully seal those threads. And then I am gonna top stitch right along there from the outside. Okay, so close that, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add a wristlet strap, and we will call it finished. I'm just using 1/2" hardware from my website, Mormino.com. The link is, as you guessed it, below, as well as the subscribe button. So if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed and you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It'll notify you when I post new videos, etc. And I also go live in a sewing group on Facebook called Sew Whatever, so if you want to come check that out, we'd love to have you hang with us. So there is the diamond clutch wallet, all complete. That is by Teresa Lucio Designs. I'm pretty excited. So your phone goes here. It says it's going to fit an extra large phone, which is pretty cool. And you open this up and you have access to your coins, etc. You could even put another phone in there if you really needed to. It's so spacious. And then when you open this side up, you get easy access to your receipts here, or your dollar bills, y'all, there. And then there's also a handy dandy card slot there. You've got all of these at your fingertips, and then these up here. All right, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy. If you make one or have any tips or tricks to add, go ahead and leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.